All right, good morning. Look at that. I gotta rig that a little bit. I am Mark, and I'm coming to you from Baker's Green Acres. A lot of you may have all of a sudden gotten turned on to me, because this last video that I put out, it would have been last Wednesday, got 26,000 views last time I looked at it. That's a lot of people. 26,000. When you think about 100 people, 100 people is a lot of people, but 26,000 people, that's a lot of people. For all you guys that are going to be asking questions on here, I'm not going to really be able to do that because I just have something to brief, and let's leave it right there. This is going to be briefing number 2 or briefing number 3 on the Hidden Creek Farm incident, and it's two people that run this farm, Crystal and Lee. It's Lee Witt and Crystal Brummins. They are husband and wife. This is a farm down in Dalton Township, which is in Muskegon, Michigan. I know this is getting a lot of attention from outside of our state, and that's cool. And what happened was, well, let me back up a little bit. They have an 18-acre farm, and I got involved because Crystal called me and said that they're having problems with their township. She tried to tell me on the phone, wasn't able to, called me back later, told me a little bit, and then they said, hey, we'll drive up and we'll sit down with you and tell you. And what they told me was a pretty typical story of, townships thinking that they have more authority than they really do. Basically, what the township did was they fielded a complaint from a neighbor, and the neighbor's complaining that their farming operation is infringing on his life, which I kind of get. I don't think it does, but I think he's just a grumpy old guy, and he feels as though it is. My wife and I traveled down there because we wanted to make sure what we were hearing was correct. And I can tell you, if you go to the Hidden Creek Farm Facebook page, there's a video tour there, and it's pretty accurate. That's what I saw when I went in. Only thing is on that video tour you can't smell. But I kind of went around, and I saw how the animals were dispersed. They're spread out. And there is no concentration of manures or anything like that. I smelled nothing there except for, the lilacs were coming out, and I could smell that. It was actually a very nice, well-kept farm, very serene, and I'm told that the neighbor had, in the last 5 years, come over and rototilled for them. He had driven over with his gator with his grandchildren and showed them the animals and stuff, and then all of a sudden, he had a problem because they had a plant sale there, and there was a lot of traffic coming in. Well, these people are in the farming business, and they're there to sell plants, and they have to make money to survive. That's what farming really is, and this guy had a problem with it. So he went to the township. Township said, all you can do is file suit against them. We can't do anything. But what the township then realized was, hey, they didn't ask us for permission to have a plant sale. And so the township summons Crystal. Lee works during the day. Crystal takes care of the farm full-time. They're about in their mid-late 20s. Real nice people, real uptight, hard-working, clean, dry, serviceable is what we would call them. And they summoned her to the township office, and they got her in a room with 3 of them, and they said, hey, you need to sign this permission slip and then pay your $50 to have this event that you want to have on Mother's Day. And she said, well, she didn't feel comfortable, actually, because she was in this room behind closed doors with 3 strangers. And so she got up and excused herself and left. And so what they did is they filed suit against her. And I know there's a lot of misinformation from people that are calling the township office, but I want you to look at this, okay? This is the complaint. The township is suing them. All right. Township is saying that they're not. They're saying that it's just a safety issue, and they're saying that it's just a traffic issue or a parking issue. But if you read through this, it's more than that. They want to stop the operation, and they cite nuisance and other things. Now, here's where we are right now. Okay, we've got the Michigan Small Farms Council involved, and that is a mighty group of people. We have the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund involved, and that is a mighty group of people. That's a national group. And then we have a lot of, you 25,000 people. That is probably the biggest group right there. That is huge when you get all those people kind of thinking about the same thing and thinking, hey, this is a load of crap. Now, I'll just tell you this. In Michigan, we have what's called the Right to Farm Act. And when you see that word act, that means that it is a law. Now, the township, that's Aunt B and Floyd the Barber and, people like that. They come together and they say, no, we think this should be here and we think this should be there, and that's what we think. And so we've got an ordinance. But I'm here to tell you, folks, American citizens all, that in our country, laws have far more authority than an ordinance has. All right. So the Right to Farm Act is a law, went through the legislature, and was signed into law by the governor, is the law of the land. And it's very clear that these people have the right to farm, even if this place where they're living may be zoned other than farming. Right. Farming can coexist with other functions. It doesn't always have to be only farms, right? That would mean that you could only farm out where there's huge tracts of land that is zoned agricultural. That's ludicrous, because if you're going to keep some chickens in your yard for your own eggs, that's farming. If you're going to keep a garden in your yard, that's farming, right? Now, I realize that there's probably, it could go a little too far, and it could. But in this case, it hasn't. And this is what we deal with as Americans, being free citizens. All right, we are free. We're not required to run to the township to ask for permission to have a birthday party in our yard, or a yard sale, or a plant sale, or if we want to do things in our property that are legal. We don't have to ask permission of anybody. That's the beauty of being an American. Our Constitution protects us from them. And, I harp on the Fifth Amendment, but I would recommend that you would download the Bill of Rights to the U.S. Constitution and read through it, because that is your protection from them. If the township says that we say that you can't have redheaded children in your family, does that mean you would have to move to a different township? Or you can only have redheaded children in Zone 1 or Zone R6? No, they don't have that authority. But here's how this has gone down, and this is the tragedy of this whole thing. And I know a little inside poop on this, and I'll bring you up to speed on that in a minute. But this is how this whole thing went down. The farm owners refused to sign a land use permit, seeking permission to do something on their property that is private property. So, is it required by law? That's the question. And so I dug into that a little bit. And it is not required by law. It is not. I don't know. It's something that they want you to do, but if you say, I'm not going to do it, you don't have to, right? But what the township did, was this. Then they filed this. Now, they're in a situation where the township is getting a lot of heat from you all, which I really appreciate. People stepping forward and making some phone calls and saying we don't like this. The township is saying, well, if they would only do the land use permit, pay the $50, then they can have a private event on their property. Okay, Now, I, I don't think that's right. I mean, why should I have to pay the township for permission to do anything? Let me back up a little bit to last Thursday. I got a phone call. I'm out doing my chores. It's kind of mid-evening, probably 8 o'clock or so. I get this phone call. Guy said, it's a Muskegon phone number, so I answer it. Yeah. I shut the tractor off. He goes, well, my name's Tony Barnes, and I'm the township supervisor. I said, all right. So he goes to tell me what this is all about, and he sounded pretty reasonable. I mean, he's a pretty reasonable guy. I like talking to him. However, what he's saying is that if you want to have an event on your private property, you do need to go to the township to ask permission, because they have to make sure that it's safe. All right? They got to make sure that there's safety, because if there isn't safety, somebody could get hurt, right? And he felt in this case that there wasn't any safety. What happens if the fire department had to get in there? What happens? Well, okay. And I said, okay, if we're going to go down that road, everything's got to be safe as pertaining to what you think, then, you can twist us around any way you want. And I said to him, what do you think about the Fifth Amendment? And he's like, oh, here we go down the constitutional road, right? So, I did say, why don't we get this settled at the lowest level? Why not you guys drop your lawsuit? And he said, we don't have a lawsuit against them. And I said, well, I sat at their kitchen table and I read it. And he says, we do not have a lawsuit against them. We are not filing a lawsuit against them. Here it is. Talked to him yesterday. He says, well, yeah, we are filing a lawsuit, but we're not trying to shut them down. I said, well, I read the lawsuit and it says you want them to cease operations. He says, yeah, but that's not what we're trying to do. We're actually trying to just get them to sign the land use permit and give up the $50. Oh. I said, well, what happens if you win this lawsuit? Then they're shut down. What happens if you lose the lawsuit? Then they get to continue their operation. So you're trying to shut them down, but you'll drop the lawsuit if they'll give you $50? That doesn't sound right. To do something on their private property, that does not sound right to me. So that's where we left the conversation. He was kind of upset with me that I did not, I was incorrect in my last video. And so I'm going to make the corrections. I held up a sign with Lorraine Grabinski's telephone number there at the office, and I guess there was a lot of phone calls that went in, so I appreciate that. And I think maybe I led people to believe that she was not a nice person. I have never met Lorraine. All I know of Lorraine is she's the one that signed this complaint, right? This is big medicine, because you got to go to court with this, and if you don't have a lawyer, you pretty much forfeit it, and you pretty much give up your business. So the township gets your money, and they have a lawyer on staff, and if you don't do what they tell you to do, they take you to court. If you don't have $5,000 to cough up for a lawyer to go into a courtroom, and you may get a lawyer that's working for you or may not, you never know. He may play golf with the judge. You never know. You're out of business, basically. So I don't think Lorraine was very kind. I don't think she was very careful what she was doing. It seems to me she went right to a lawyer and right to a lawsuit. That's the go-to. There wasn't any negotiation there at all. So I guess I led you to believe that she was not a nice person, but I want to correct that. Tony tells me she is a nice person. Okay. I was wrong, too. She is not an elected official there. Tony hired her, but Tony is an elected official. I told Tony, you could be a hero on this, and you would definitely get elected next time if you would just do the right thing here and just back off of this. But he said that the people that aren't going to vote for him are not going to vote for him if he does back for this anyway. Back off from this anyway. So he's not going to back off. So this is really Tony Barnes that's doing this. Now, he did tell a lot of you that this is just about a parking issue. That's not true. This cites parking, but it also cites animals, it cites nuisance, it cites zoning, and it does seek to stop the operation. All right. So in some ways, he's kind of being truthful. He's saying, well, we don't want to do this. Yeah, you don't want to do it. You just want the $50 for the permit every time they're going to have an event. But if they don't give you the $50, you're going to take them to court and sue them. So that's their method. That's their mode of doing this. I don't think it's right. I mean, I think we need to look at this and maybe look at this office. Is this office just a self-sustaining office? Because my question to him yesterday was very direct. Like, okay, if I pay the $50 for the permit, what do I get for the $50? What do I get? Do I get something? Do I get advertising? Do I get, I don't know. Do I get something? No, you don't get nothing. Well, what do I get if I don't pay the $50? Well, I think you know the answer to that. You get this. You get hauled into court and threatened with a lawsuit, and if you don't hire a lawyer and get in there, you're going to lose your business. So that's what you get. Now, this doesn't look good to me. And this is being presented to the people of this township as law. It's being presented as law, and it seeks to subvert their constitutional rights. Constitutional right, the Fifth Amendment. Your life, liberty, and property is protected under due process of law. And this is not law. So something's wrong here. So, I don't know. There's a problem here. Also, another correction. Tony did not like the fact that I called them parasites. I referred to them as parasites a couple of times. I didn't mean that in a derogatory manner. It just was like, I didn't mean it that way. He says I need to correct that they are not parasites. Okay, I don't know, but maybe they're not parasites. Maybe they are actually producing something there at the township level that we don't know about. I don't know. It seems like a lot of money flowing in and like nothing flowing the other way. All right. But, all right. The couple other things. It looks like we are going to commit for the long haul on this. All right. So what we're going to need people to do, you need to start thinking along the lines of donations, right? That's like a pastor in church asking for donations. But start thinking about this. If you invest in this, what you're actually doing is investing in a group of people that is willing to stand in the gap in case this is you. All right. In this case, it's Crystal and Lee, but next time it could be you, right? You want to have a graduation party at your house and you don't get a permit, they could come in there and roll the road up in front of your house, right? So you're investing in your own freedom, your own constitutional rights. So we're not going to ask for that yet. We're just going to ask you to start thinking about it. You know, there's people out there that could definitely help with this. There's 26,000 people saw that video. If everybody kicked in 25 cents, we'd have a good chunk of change. If everybody kicked in $10, we would be able to have a lawyer retained statewide when this happens. I got another phone call this morning about this. Same thing. Then we could descend on that and deal with it. But I would like you, this time, please, go to the Hidden Creek Farm Facebook page, and there are Food Freedom t-shirts and Food Freedom stickers, and if you would buy some of that stuff. Buy a lot of that stuff. Buy a whole lot of that stuff and wear it around when you're in town in Muskegon, right? It will help. Half of it will go towards the Michigan Small Farms Council, and you're just going to have to take my word for it. It's a very secure, good group of people that are passionate about small farms, and they will take good care of those dollars. I'm sure at some point we'll be able to check and see what's there. I'm not sure if we are there yet, but that's where those dollars are going to go, because we may have to supplement what's going on here with some of the dollars that we raise. If towards the end of the week we figure out that no, we're going full bore on this, then we're going to open the floodgates for donations. And what dollars are really is they are the ability to do work, right? And a lot of this is work. It's just paperwork, and we have to pay for lawyers. I think, I have friends that are lawyers, but I think that in this case it's unnecessary. I think that the Fifth Amendment is really clear. They don't have a law, but that's another thing. When I talked to Tony yesterday, the township supervisor, he believes that and I like Tony, I do. We disagree, and I'm briefing you all. I'm not talking bad about him here, but I disagree with him. He believes that the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, is a living, breathing document. And I totally disagree with that. I totally disagree. It is to be taken the way it was written, period. If it's going to be living and breathing, who's giving it artificial respiration here? Who's going to be doing that? What, the township? After this conversation with him was over, I went in to have lunch, and I told my wife what was going on, and she said, yeah, it's becoming pretty obvious here that the Constitution is our protection against them. The Constitution gives us the power, the U.S. citizen, the power against them. I mean, you want to have some chickens in your yard, you want to farm, want to live freely, they don't want you to. And their ordinances that they make up help them to maintain the power that they have. It's perceived, but if they have it, they have it. And that's not right. That's just not right. That's not the way our country works. We need to unleash the American spirit. Yeah, are there risks? Are you going to have people that are going to start, having pigs live in junk cars in their front yard? Yeah, you're going to have that. But if the township wants to work with that and say, hey, how can we help you to clean this up so it looks better, instead of just, you're going to do it or we're going to drag you into court. Well, maybe some of these people are poor right now, Maybe they haven't got all these great jobs that are out there yet. But forcing people to do it and taking their livelihood to do it because you can, because you're getting a paycheck. By the last time I checked, too, the paychecks that these people at the township office are getting, they're taking from the people. And then they're retaining lawyers to use against the people. How does that work? I mean, it just doesn't seem right when you think about it. Do I have a better plan? Yeah, I have a better plan, but nobody's asking me that right now. All right, well, that's it for now. I would hope that you would do the same thing as you did last time. Share this hard. Start making those donations via buying the T-shirts. That is an old program. That goes way, way back to when the Shady Grove Farm was going through this and Baker's Green Acres was going through this. See, I tried to tell this to Tony yesterday. This is not our first time going through this. It is their first time going through it, so they think that they're going to prevail in this. They won't, right? The neighbor, there's nothing we can do. He's a private citizen. He can sue anybody he wants. But his lawsuit is riding underneath the wings of the township. Probably won't work, but anyway. I'm going to sign off for now because I want to keep it short. I appreciate y'all for looking at this last time and spreading it around. Please do the same thing, and I will keep you posted when more information comes my way. Thanks.